Hey everyone, this is Joe G with Touch of the Brush Model Weathering, and welcome to JC's Rip Track Down and Dirty Weathering Contest number 3. And here is my entry. And this is a boxcar that I actually purchased on eBay a couple of years ago. And I'm like, oh, there's a prototype, so I'm going to try to replicate this particular boxcar. And so we're going to start with the disassembly, as we all do here. Take off the wheels and the trucks, and you can see how to do it at lightning speed. Now these are plastic wheels and plastic trucks. I plan on replacing the plastic wheels with metal wheels eventually, but I like to keep the plastic wheels because, you know, why not? You can show that you can weather anything. And here we're using Anita's acrylics, and I'm using a flat brown and a flat black, and I mix the two together to a ratio where there's more brown than black, and it's based on your liking of what the prototype presents itself to you. And here we're just painting the trucks a base color as well as the wheels, and I do that throughout the whole model. And there are certain spots where it needs weathering or it needs rust. I like to have a base coat on it first. It just gives a good platform to work off of. In here we're starting the process of using that black and brown, and going on top of the sides of the rooftop, and we're starting with the doors and work our way through the grab irons and the ladders and the foot ladders and all that stuff, and even the brake wheel. And here we're using the Q-tip, and what I do is I cut it off. Actually use the tip of the Q-tip, and the very thin part, you get on to those little details. Here we're using the same technique, and we're going on the sides of the boxcar. And the cool part is you can take a little of that paint while it's wet and drag your finger down and streak it just a bit. And I'm using some red oxide and the brown paint, which gives a nice color rust for the couplers. And that's what I'm doing here. And I paint the whole thing that color. When later on we'll use some black powders and go over the whole thing with black powders, so it gives the illusion that it's just filthy and with some rust here and there. And the same with the brake hose, the same way. Brake hoses are basically black, but I like to paint them and then weather them so it looks like it's black with some dirt on them. And so here, next, we're going to take the red oxide as well, the brown again, and we're going on the roof of the boxcar. And cool part is you can even use it, just leave it like this if you decide to do that, but we use this as the base. Now don't forget, it's like a reddish color. Makes it a little slightly brown, so it's a good base to work off of because rust has a variety of colors. You have yellow oak. I use a yellow ochre, raw umber, burnt umber, but you will see dark rust is old rust is dark color, like a brownish dark, almost black in some cases. And then the lighter or newer the rust, the lighter the color is. So you start here, all you got to do is use the dark rust here and there to make the effect that here's the older rust and here's the new rust. And we're going back now. While that dries, we're going back and painting the trucks. I paint them about 2-3 times to get rid of those paint strokes on the wheels and the trucks. And of course, you paint inside the axles, inside the wheels, all of it. And so here we're using watercolors, and they're gouache paints to have a nice thick texture to them, and a sponge you get at the dollar store for $1. It's one of the greatest techniques that Ralph Franzetti actually taught me. He is, I believe, he's one of the judges for this contest here. And really fast, we're gonna dab this. We mix the yellow ochre and the raw umber, the burnt umber all together, and you dab it because it gives it a texture. And see, you can see the light and dark. And so what I do is I go for the light first on the sides, and then I use the burnt umber, the dark color, in the middle, because when it rains, it goes down, and when it falls down on the roof, it goes to the middle, then goes to the sides. So your darkest rust, or the quickest rust, will be somewhat centered, and so you do that. And then here, there is the same technique. Use your older rust, darker color, and then you use your lighter colors for the newer rust around that darker color, and it gives the illusion that you have a variety of different aged rust. And do the same thing with the doors, with the sides of the car. And if you look at the car itself, you can see there's some rust on the doors. And that's that so far. That's the rooftop. And then we blow dry the heck out of it. That way we go to the next step. And this actually it makes, for me, works. Makes the project go a little faster, especially if you're on the deadline. And I'll explain further on this fading and this rust on the sides, but here we're starting some of the rust on the bottom of the box car, and we'll go throughout the whole box car later in the video. And now we're using Anita's acrylic black paint and like a dark green, and well, not really dark green. It's one of the paints you can get like at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, and it's like a medium green. And what I do is I paint the door of the car, which is slightly a different shade of green based on the photos. Now this was a little too dark for me, what I was looking at, so I lighten it up later on. That way you get the proper color of the doorway. And you can see there's a lot of white on the car. That was from the old, I got this car from somebody on eBay, and so I did my best to get rid of all that fade, whatever he did to that box car. But here we're starting the graffiti process and using a paint marker, starting the whole back base paint on the sides, the white, and then going over, mixing a pink and a red and a white acrylic paints, and again getting the best I can with the color of what the graffiti was on the prototype. And then from there, seal it. I use a matte medium, and you can see here I started the process of all the lines and squiggles that the boxcar has, just a regular permanent thin marker. And so now we do the other side of the car, but first, here we go, we're going to start the rust process. Yellow ochre, raw umber, a little bit of brown paint, and constantly mixing. You see I'm dabbing really fast, but I'm mixing that color constantly. And I have a little bit of the paintbrush is just slightly wet with water, and so what you do is I streak it all the way down. Yeah, it looks thick, and we know on the model it's not like that, but we're gonna go over this, and heck, you can do that and just blow dry it, and bam, you have rust, and it looks so good. But the whole boxcar doesn't really have all that, so it just has a little bit on the top, a little bit at the bottom. So what we do is we use that rust technique, and then what I do is a little bit of water, and I rub it off in the middle, and then it creates that illusion that rust is fading on the top and bottom, not throughout the whole car. And here there's a little mark where I guess the reporting marks were somewhere on that box car, and it was rusted out. So I use a little bit of brown paint, a little bit of the rust brown powder on there, and create the illusion of that effect. And this is the other side, the graffiti, the same exact technique as the other side. White is the base, and I use just a variety of different colors on the marker, the paint rather, and then use the permanent marker to create some of the illusion of that graffiti. And here we have we're starting the reporting mark patch. And with this patch here, it's acrylic paints using a green color again, and just going over one coat, drying it, another coat, and drying it. I did about 5 or 6 times to get the effect I really wanted. And then from there we blow dry it, and then we bring it back on the board here very soon, and that way that is what it looks like here. And then I use some decals to create the reporting marks. Now after the decals are set, you seal the whole thing up with a matte, with a clear spray paint. And what I'm going to do right here is I'm using just simple pastels, whites. I'm fading out that graffiti because it's pretty faded off the boxcar and the prototype, and gives the illusion of just some fading here and there. And if you look at the lettering of the boxcar, it's really it looks like bright white. That's because the paint is fading, and so the same illusion, the same effect is using that pastel, and I dab it on the lettering, and I spray it like way far distance, like about a foot away, just enough for the pastels to stick but not blow off the model. And I did that a few times. And here we're going over with some brown, and there's like a rust brown color and a regular earth brown color that I mix together, and those are weathering powders, and I go over just about almost the entire model with it, so it fades that green just a little bit and makes the car look dirty. And some of the little rust that you see here and there, that is completed with some of that weather powders. Then the edge here on this, so you can do the same thing here. And what I did was there's a little spot on the rooftop that I wanted to do where you can actually take that powder and then drag it off your finger just enough to where you have certain edges of it on there, and not the whole entire space of where you're actually putting the weathering powders on. Now here, there's some rush streaks on the doorway, so you took some yellow ochre and some water and diluted that yellow ochre and dabbed some spots on the door itself, and took a dry Q-tip and just dabbed it slightly to get rid of some of the bubbles and the excess water, and blow dry it. And so it has the effect of it just streaking over that door. And another way you could do, you could use a fan brush as well. And here we got this technique I was showing you with the white pastels. Just taking some of that white, dabbing it and brushing it on the name of the boxcar. And what I'm doing there is I'm streaking it downward, so it looks like the paint is fading but streaking down. And so there's the decals that's on there, and I got a screwdriver, and I'm creating some little rust spots that are on the T and the W of the prototype. And you can use a sponge. You can use a very fine tip of a knife. I suggest you be careful with that. But I've also used, here's a screwdriver, even a fan brush, or a very fine, thin paintbrush will work too. And so you can see the model here is really taking shape here. And the final touches are really coming about. It's just really these rust spots here and there. And you know, the rust spots, there weren't really streaks coming down, so I really have to worry about that. That's a whole other technique that maybe in another contest I'll be able to do. But here I'm just going over that door a couple of times, and just adding some more of the streaks to make them more visible. And what is using a yellow weather powder and some paint and the yellow ochre, and what I'm doing is I'm going over this, and then I rub some of it off so it looks like it's rusted in that yellowish color, but not fully looks like it's painted. Oh, as it would look like it's painted. But see, I'm using that screwdriver again, and just putting dots and dots and dots, and that shows you rust spots. Very, very simple technique. A lot of different things work. All right, and now we're going using some of that rust, brown rust, earth brown, some black, and some red oxide red. We're going over and blending those colors on different layers on these trucks as well as the wheels. And what I like to do is, if there are certain details that are needed on the trucks, I would seal these and then go over that, and so that way you won't ruin the initial base weathering of those trucks. And so I've sealed this boxcar about 10-15 times. Every time you work on a step, spray it, seal it, or spray it and seal it. Of course, it depends on the project, depends on the car, but there you go. And now we start the wheels. The wheels had some weathering on them, but we're going to add some more to it. And what I do is I add a little bit of the red, a little bit of the brown, a little bit of the rust brown, and then darken it with some black. That's pretty much how I do these trucks on this particular model. It's different for every single model we do. And yes, the underbody gets it as well. That's part of the car. And then I went back on the inside of the wheels, repainted them and weathered them as well. And the sides of the cars a little bit more. And I think there you go. I'll get my arm out of there. There you go. So I got some of that black, a little bit of that brown. It's just, yeah, there we go. It really looks nice. And so here's the final touch, and the final result of these cars. So guys, thank you so much. I'd like to thank JC for having me on his contest. Really appreciate it, and thank you so much. You guys have a great week, and good luck to good luck to all the contestants, and the winner. Congratulations. Take care, guys.